So please welcome Marston Fries to the show. Welcome, Marston.
Thank you so much, Ashley. I'm so excited to be here with
Oh,
you.
I am too, so much. I saw you on this video on TikTok, and, lately I know when something is resonating with me, and you did that for me. And when I was listening to what resonated with me, or I don't know if it resonated in that way, but it was like when I said even before hitting record, it was like something about you is like a soul remembering, right? Like I have this remembrance with your soul. When I see that, it's like I stop and I'm like, okay, there's someone there that's resonating with me. And then you start telling your story, which is you're 31. It's been
Yeah.
about like 4 years. It's not even so recent.
Yes.
27, 28, 29, 30, 5 years. 27 is when it kind of, I started
Uh,
getting it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So then
Quick
I
time.
start listening, and then I'm like, there's not many videos, but I listen to those videos so much and I learn something each time. But when I realize, when I see you and see see it from a higher perspective, your life and
Mhm.
how I want you to go to the 27 and what happened and everything, because I think that will explain to people like when you're meant to do something, you are gonna do it. And if
Yes.
you don't listen, then there's gonna be another,
A
whatever,
reroute.
2x4 hitting you over the head. Like, okay,
Exactly. Yes.
wake up. You're on a
Yeah.
mission here. Your soul's journey is definitely highlighting the path for you, like putting the breadcrumbs down. Let's keep going.
Yes.
So what you've really done for me is like when I listen to your stories, okay, like there's a resonance. But what you've taught me too lately, because I've only known you probably a month,
Mhm.
but when I do listen to you, it makes me realize like there's so people are so, and I say it all the time, but I mean it more now because of you. We're so dumbed down with our programs and our beliefs. And
Yeah.
once we start to realize like that's just a program or that's just a belief and removing those and realizing how powerful we are, and that
Mhm.
is where you are now at 31. And that's what's so
Yeah.
exciting to me because I think of this generation that's coming, you and Dana Kipple that I had on a
Yes.
few weeks ago. You remind me of each other because you're so passionate and it's like it's coming from your souls, like the truth of it. And
Yes.
you can't help but like shout it to the universe.
Oh my gosh, I'm getting full body chills. I feel like I just want to cry right now because you're hitting the nail on the head with all of this. I mean, that's exactly how it feels. And that's ultimately, I mean, we can rewind, of course, but that's ultimately the point that I got to with posting the video and sharing my story because it got to the point where I felt like I was honestly like my soul was too big for my body. I thought I was going to explode. I did not. I was like, oh my God, I have all this information and all this experience, and I need to talk about it. And I knew I didn't realize at that time, how strongly I had been being guided to do just that. But it was manifesting physically as this feeling in my body of like, oh my God, I just want to crawl out of my skin. So everything you're saying is really hitting the nail on the head.
Okay, I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to your story. And that the contrast of your finance career to
Yeah.
what you're doing, like what your soul really came to do. Like if you think of yourself as a soul up, in heaven or what, and writing the blueprints of you're getting your life together and you're like, okay, this is what I'm going to do first. Like to
Mhm.
do that, talk
Exactly.
about like, whoa. So let's
Yes.
go. You take it.
Yes. So yeah, that's a huge can of worms and I love it and I'm so here for it because I really believe that no matter what we do in our lives or where we're guided or where we're being called to go, our whole story comes into play and is really important in shaping what we do and the person that we step into, the version of ourselves that we become. And so I think for me with my finance career, it's just interesting looking back. And I know I mentioned this to you earlier, but I had really been getting these downloads in my mid 20s. I mean, they really started like 26, 27. That's really when it all started. And 27 is when I got promoted to become vice president at the company that I was most recently at, which was one of the largest asset managers in the world. And it's just interesting looking back because I started getting these downloads that I'm here to be a bridge in some capacity, but I wasn't really sure what that meant. This was all new for me, right? Like the concept of spirit guides, the concept of spirituality even was new. But to your point earlier, it was a soul resonance. It just felt, I was like, man, there's something here, and it feels like it's really hitting me on a really deep molecular level, and I need to keep exploring this. And again, I didn't know what that meant for my career at the time. I certainly had no idea that I would be leaving that career that I had worked so hard for. But it's interesting, and I'll jump back there in a minute. But for me to look back now at what I'm doing and what I'm building in being kind of a bigger bridge across timelines, dimensions, densities of consciousness, um, it's just interesting how like that was such a conventional black and white industry that I was in, and really world that I was connected to and still am in many ways. Um, and to know now, like, okay, maybe that actually allows me the opportunity to be a bridge to people who I might not have been able to reach before. For people who, right, who are either going through what I've gone through, or who might not otherwise have access to this type of information because it's just not in their orbit or
Right.
in their external reality. And so for me to kind of come in and say, yeah, this was my life, and this was my story, and this was what I was working toward, and these were my experiences, and this is what I'm doing, and this is what I know now based on my lived experience and what I've learned. I think it allows me to reach different people and to open the minds of people who again might not have even just been aware of things like this. So I really view everything in our life as nothing's an accident, and in my opinion, and I think that it's up to us, like where everything is neutral in the universe. And I believe that it's up to us to assign value and meaning to whatever it is that happens in our lives, whatever unfolds, whatever our career paths are. And it's just I know there are some people who might view this as throwing away a really steady, promising, lucrative career. And in my mind, I don't view it like that at all. I view it as something to be really grateful for because it gave me enough resources to feel comfortable-ish taking a big leap of faith like this. And it gave me the experience that I needed to learn what I've needed to learn and to grow in the way that I have, and to have those connections in whatever it is that I go on to do. So I'm choosing to really view it as um, something that really gave me my training, and something that got me to where I am right now, and that will continue to allow me to build on all this experience that I've gained.
Right. So go back to the boyfriend and how he passed away suddenly. And
Yeah,
I see, I look at the pieces in your puzzles, in your puzzle.
yeah, I love
And when
that.
I think of that, and I'm like, wow, in your soul's contract, he decided to, that was like I think that was a huge part of your
Yeah,
shift in understanding like what your path is. Now you're going to take the, the right in the road, or the Y, you're going to turn right now instead of
totally.
stay going straight.
Yeah, so that was a major catalyst for me, of course. And that's kind of the crux of this. So it was just, how it all happened. He was the first person that I met when I moved to Milwaukee. That was where I lived for I'd gotten promoted to this job. And um, he was the first person I met when I flew in to start doing client events. And we just immediately had this incredible bond. And I had never really I had never really had a serious relationship to this extent before, and everything happened very, very quickly. It was one of those when you know, and I think it scared him how quickly it was moving, and I mean, it scared me in some regards as well, because I was over here like, oh my gosh, I just started this incredible job, and I'm the youngest woman, like youngest person, but let alone woman in a male dominated industry, kind of in this role doing this. I don't want to be distracted by this beautiful relationship that's unfolding. And I remember having this conversation with my therapist, because she was like, Marston, this is, how do you know that this isn't exactly what you need in your life right now? This is the juiciness that life is all about. This doesn't just happen every day. Like, and let yourself enjoy this. And so I did, and it took a lot for me to be able to let my guard down. And there was an age gap with him too, so I was already, kind of facing these fears internally of what other people would think and the unconventionality of like how this happened and where we were going with this relationship um and I had really gotten myself to a point where I felt so embodied in it and so secure. And I was like, no, I'm moving forward with this. And I will never forget, Ashley, I went to a wedding for some friends in Boulder. This was in early October. He died October 26th. And I'll never forget, I was talking to a friend there and she was pretty religious. And what she was saying to me was really interesting because she was like, if you think that he's the one, what I did before I married my husband was I said, God, if he is not the one for me, I need divine intervention because I'm going to marry him. And so I took that back with me to Milwaukee and I'm in my car driving and I'm like, Spirit guides, if
Oh,
if James is not the one for me, I'm going to need serious divine intervention because I'm going to marry this man. And I was very
wow.
set on that. Um, and then 3 weeks later, he passed very suddenly, very tragically, very intimately, and it rocked everything. And really, it left me feeling. I mean, the way that it happened, and the thing I found out information afterward regarding his life and kind of his happenings that he was not completely honest with me about. And I mean, I just remember feeling robbed by the universe. It was really the
Wow.
feeling of like what did I do? Like I've done everything right that I'm supposed to do in my life. I've gotten to the point where I am self-made. I've worked really, really hard to build this incredible career for myself. I have all these amazing friends. I just finally met the person I've been waiting to meet and this happens and in such an excruciatingly painful way. And what I realized was I had been shattered in every way imaginable. And instead of trying to glue those pieces back together, I decided to sweep them away and just allow this version of myself that was clearly being asked to be born emerge how she was meant to emerge. And it was, I kind of reached this point where I realized I could, heal from this, go through the grieving process, do what I need to do to heal and move on and transmute this into something that makes me better in the confines of what I was living in before. Go back to the career, make something there, create a life for myself within that framework. Or I could use this as an opportunity to see how far I can go and really blow the roof off of life and really, really uncover the meaning behind why an event like this needed to happen on a soul level and how I could deepen my connection with my guides and spirit and my connection to spirit and other dimensions and densities of consciousness or planes of existence. And I really used it as an opportunity and a permission slip to explore all of this more deeply and just see what could happen. Because the way I viewed it, if the pendulum can swing all the way over here to something worse than my nightmares, then by the laws of
Yeah,
physics, laws of the universe, it has to swing all the way over here to something better than my wildest dreams. I refuse to believe that can't happen for me.
right. Now, did your that convention where you kept getting that ringing in your ear happen
Yeah.
first, or was the contact first? When
Great question. So what started happening was it was really interesting. I start immediately after he died, I started realizing that I was a lot more in tune with with mediumship, but just with spirit in general than I ever really gave myself credit for, or really had the time or space to even lean into. So I started getting the ringing in my ear shortly after he passed. Um, and at first I was like, is this just one of those things where like a bomb goes off and I'm having the ringing and the
right.
tinnitus and but it was interesting because I would get like a really strong dial tone in my ear and then I would get like full body chills. So it would be like a lot more all encompassing. And I had met with various other mediums at that time who I felt, again, to your point earlier, I just felt resonant with. And I was like, nah, there's something here. Like I need to reach out to them and see if there's some guidance that I can get because I felt so lost. And they were all kind of saying the same thing. And they were like, this, you're a medium. Like you're here to be helping people in a much different way. And you're not meant to be in your career that much longer. You're meant to be, you're going to be building something over your life. Like this is your life's work. And I think that was almost another permission slip in and of itself for me to deepen more into and open up more to these gifts that were surfacing, which we all have inherent in us. It's just a matter of how, tapped in and tuned in we are. And so the ringing in the ears would get more prominent, and I started connecting dots more of when it would happen and where I was being directed and where for example, like this happened I was doing a client event with Forbes, and it was this really big event in January of last year, and I was really stressed about it. And um, we had a fixed income portfolio manager in town giving a presentation, and he all of a sudden like was interrupted by someone in the audience who raised their hand. But right before this person in the audience raised their hand to ask a question, I got a really strong ringing in my ear that directed me to look over to where that person was about 7 seconds before they raised their hand. And then later on that night, that client actually had come up to me, and we started striking up conversation, and he asked how I was doing, and I told him that my partner had died, and I had been on leave from work, but I was healing, and I was doing okay. And that was when I noticed, like, oh my gosh, there's another presence around us, and it was a 23-year-old male presence. There was no one else in that room who was below the age of 40 besides me. So I knew that this wasn't a person in body. And it turned out we ended up having more of a conversation, and his little brother had died at age 23 in a car accident driving on the Pacific Coast Highway. And it ended up being that this was a really emotional conversation, and neither one of us was expecting to have it, but because I followed the nudges and my intuition in this, and I kind of allowed the synchronicities to open up, it ended up being such a beautiful heart-centered healing conversation for him. And it proved to me that this is something I needed to listen to.
Right. And to think of the times when what reminds me of is like when I get a ringing in the ear, you know? But that's what I say about you. What you've done for me is like, yeah, take that, whatever it is, whatever little sign that comes your way, and
Mhm.
really stop and think, okay, it is here for something, and
Yeah.
go there and really listen to your intuition. And because that's kind of what you've built on. Like you've
Yeah.
really,
Oh, totally.
yeah,
Yeah, that's I mean, God, I'm quite literally living right now according to where my intuition is telling me to go. And I'm really allowing myself to be led by the intangible, by the unseen. And as you and I have talked about, when there's no physical proof in your reality, when you can't quite see what you're building or where you're going, it ignites fear, right? That's a natural human response. And it's like, man, can I trust this? Like, I can't see it. There's nothing to prove it. So when we don't have that physical, tangible proof, it comes down to the soul resonance and what feels aligned and what feels true, even if it seems illogical, even if it seems irrational. Um, it's really something that I've been allowing to guide me in this whole process. And the synchronicities that I'm getting along the way, the people I'm meeting, like you, and the conversations that I'm getting to have are just proof that this is the proof. I'm experiencing the proof as I go.
right, for sure. And I'm doing the same. And I feel like, like when you start talking about resonance and timelines and uh, the way that, the 5D, the 3D, and how you describe it as a tree trunk,
Yes.
so I'm like learning. So the last month having you in my ear, and I'm thinking about how I look at life, and I'm just picking up the breadcrumbs. I don't have an end result. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like I'm just going, like how you've been traveling. Like you're
Yeah.
just gonna say, okay, something's telling me to go to
Yes.
wherever. Like I'm gonna go, and so living that way there's no fear. It's
Mhm.
just this allowance and trust and surrender and like looking for the magic every day and like, wow,
Magic.
right?
Yes, and when you reached out to me and I saw Uncover Your Magic, and I was like, just getting your whole, I just like, okay, this is what she's about. And I felt such a strong heart pull because one of my really good friends and I say all the time, like our kind of slogan is leave room for magic.
Oh,
Leave room for magic in daily life. I mean, if we're trying to plan everything to, first of all, like you alluded to this earlier in my life, I mean, I if the universe doesn't want me going in a specific direction, they will not be shy about rerouting
right,
and throwing a wrench in the plans. So I've learned at this point, you can plan all you want. We never know what is headed our way, and we never know what surprises or miracles, because miracles happen every day if we choose to view them that way. We never know what is available to us if we're keeping our head down and we're so fixated. And I know I talk about this a lot with timelines, but if we're so fixated on getting from, point A to point B to point C, D, E in a linear fashion, that actually limits us so much, because then we're ignoring the possibilities of a much better, more exciting, more joyful, more magical path that will require kind of a leap, because it will defy what our logical brain is telling
right.
us we need to do.
Yes. And you've done that for me even more strongly because you talk about even probability, timelines, and possibility. It's a
Mhm.
probability. Those
Yes.
are so
Okay.
let's talk about that.
Okay. I love this so much. So I actually just posted, I'm sharing more about my actual contact experience and on TikTok now. And it's funny, I just posted a video
I
talking more
just
about,
saw it.
oh, good. Okay.
Because I can't wait to talk about that too. But
Oh, yes.
let's start with
Amazing.
timelines.
Okay. Yes.
I
Okay.
get too carried like,
And I
okay,
get too
I can't
excited.
wait.
So I'm like so passionate here. Um, so I believe, and how it's been shown to me by my higher consciousness, my higher mind, intuition, whatever you want to call it. I receive a lot of images and downloads that kind of tie together they have like a layering effect. So I'll receive an idea and I'll know that it's not complete, but it's going to keep coming to me in pieces that need to be layered upon each other. And sometimes it will layer in my dreams. Sometimes it'll just come in when I'm on a walk, and I'll voice note it, or I'll write it in a note. But I can see it clearly. And so what I've seen with timelines is it's not, nothing is ever impossible in this universe, where every single thing, thought, experience, event, you name it, that could ever exist does exist. It's just a matter of if you experience it in this lifetime or not. And so the way that I view it is, if timelines, so think about parallel realities, alternate realities, there's lots of different nomenclature used. Um, if nothing's ever impossible, but you're viewing something in your life as, oh, I could never have that, or I could never experience that, you're saying that something's impossible when it's really not. So it really comes down to your belief system, because our belief systems predicate every experience that we have in this external reality. And we'll talk more about that, I'm sure, just getting into how that ties into timelines. But if all timelines or parallel realities exist on a spectrum of potential, which they do, then when you're saying like, oh, I don't think this could really happen, then you're kind of aligning to the timeline that says there's a 0.00001% chance of this happening. What's the difference between aligning to that timeline versus aligning to a timeline with a higher probability of, I could actually see how this could fit into my life if I'm willing to visualize and I'm willing to connect some dots here and I'm willing to think positively and kind of think outside the lines. Then the only difference between aligning to those timelines, to those different probabilities, is your own belief system and whether or not you can do that. And it's the funny thing to think about it from a quantum physics perspective is, it's not even that you're doing anything. It's just a subtle shift in vibration.
Right. You know, I was telling you before we hit record on this healing, I don't even want to call it a healing center, but this oasis
Yeah.
of like this
Yes.
haven of soul frequency healing, where we're going in this world. Well, for me to even have that thought, it has to already exist.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Mhm.
So
Yes. Yeah.
anything we think of are in our imagination. And I go to schools around San Diego and I teach kids like, and they have so much imagination and it's so
Yes.
cool to see what they come up with, right? But I'm
Yeah. Because they
thinking
haven't
in,
been trained not to.
yeah, because there's no like, well, they're I could try to catch them before
Yeah,
their
exactly.
society or their parents are like
Yes.
programming. But I
Yeah.
see this magic, and they are so quick to have this imagination. So when I look at things that I've had in my life where I had the idea, I know that that's already happening, and I aligned with it, and it
Yes.
becomes my reality.
Oh my God, that you just said it perfectly. And I view that as a future memory. It's it,
Yes,
it's basically like a memory because past, present, and future are all constructs in our own consciousness, and that's a function of the third dimensional paradigm that we're existing in. But time actually is more spatial than anything else. It's like the equivalent of us flying to a different country. It's time we can kind of jump back and forth. And I know we can't really conceive that with our physical minds right now, but if we allow ourselves to kind of lift out of that mindset, then we can say, wait a minute, if I have this, I call it a heart vision. If I have this heart vision in me of where I'm going and I can see it and I can smell it and it's like a longing. It's almost like a longing for a memory that doesn't belong to you because you're like, I haven't had this experience yet. Why am I craving this? It's because it's meant for you. It's like I view it as your soul's memory. It's your soul saying like, no, recognize that thought, recognize that frequency because it's meant for you. And it's like the same way that I view timeline work with changing your past. Our past is a lot more malleable than we believe it to be because the body actually cannot tell the difference between an experience that you've actually physically had or an experience that you've believed that or that you believe that you've had. And so we're in a lot more control over how we view our past and how we heal from our past than I think we can believe or that we choose to believe in some cases, but recognizing that okay, maybe you can't change the actual event of the past per se, but you can certainly change how you perceive it, and you can go back and revisit that version of yourself, and you can really change the chemistry that got rewired from that past event. So I love
right.
that you're bringing that up.
Yeah, but it reminds me of the change your story, change your life,
Exactly.
and how powerful we are if you just
Yes.
stop talking about it. And it's not that I'm shoving things under the rug, and like if people had, there's trauma in life, but it's all for you and for your soul's
Uh,
growth. And if you can see it
yeah.
that way and start changing that story and see how
Yeah.
that shifts your timeline.
That's, oh my gosh, totally. And I always, I struggle with this because I think language is so important. Like, right, language can be, and I talk about this in one of my videos that I'm posting here about my experience, but like language can be used as a tool for unity or a weapon for divisiveness. And oftentimes in our society, language is used against each other,
Right.
and it can be difficult because there's mistranslations. Someone will say something a certain way and it won't really resonate for you, but it might resonate for someone else. But if someone else says what that person said in a different way or with different words, then it might change the entire meaning of it to you. And so I think about with what we're talking about here, like, no, you can't control in this physical reality, obviously, what happens to you. Um, and the reason I kind of say all this with language is because I never want to, I'm not, not victim blaming or shaming at all, because that's just a huge thing that I feel
Right.
passionately about. But it's helpful when we can allow ourselves to take that higher perspective from the soul lens of, okay, I didn't choose this to happen to me in this body, but it did. And so what am I going to do with it now? And how am I going to alchemize it into something that serves me and something that takes me out of the victim mentality, that allows me to reclaim my own sovereignty and take control of my life. And I don't mean like control the outcome of life, but really, take control of how I show up in the world.
Right. Let's go to September last year of your contact and
Hmm.
explain that to
Yeah.
everyone.
So, oh my gosh, so there's so much here. I don't even know where to start. I mean, so I knew throughout the year last year that I knew something big was happening. I knew I was going to be experiencing something life-changing, and I knew it was going to be happening in the fall. And I also knew that it would be very spiritual, very supernatural was a word that was coming to me at the time. And I had actually heard more about people being contacted, openly contacted, and I've had experiences ever since I was a child with like just experiences relating to extraterrestrials and like just having these dreams that would keep coming to me. And it's interesting looking back at how this all ties together. But I knew that something would be happening. And then when September happened, I just received this telepathic communication so clearly. It was as if it was like right in my ear. And what I got was like, it's your soul family. They like showed themselves as who they are, which I mean, I don't know how far we want to get into all of this, but there are humans outside of Earth humans. And so a lot of them actually look a lot like us. And there's also other species as well. There are bihominid species, there are humanoid species, but it was really interesting because I was so taken aback and they were like, time to wake up, basically. And like, you've been kind of living in this snow globe of a life. I know you enjoyed it, but like we need you on this timeline and you've been here. It truly was like a train car being picked up off the tracks.
Hmm.
And they were like, this is gonna hurt and you're not gonna love not this contact experience, but you're not gonna love how your life falls apart because of this, but you have to trust that this is because you are meant to be doing something a lot different and you're not gonna you needed divine intervention basically, because it would have been really difficult for you to make this decision on your own. And when they came in and they were presenting themselves and telling me about all of this, I was shown on a soul level our agreement to this. And it really felt actually like deja vu.
Hmm.
Like I had been there before and they were showing me like this is a nexus point or a marker on your soul's journey. That's why it's like what you and I were just talking about with future memories. They were like, this is why this feels so familiar because number one, we've done this before and in other lifetimes, we've done this before. Number two, you remember that this is an agreement that we had on a soul level, but because they honor free will, they needed me to consciously agree to it again, in body, which I thought was really, I mean, this was all new for me. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what to expect. And then what ensued from there was just a whole world of experiences that transcended anything that I could ever imagine. I mean, I was shown they taught me how to consciously astral travel. They were teaching me the differences between my physical body, my astral body, and my causal or my light body. They were teaching me how consciousness transfer works, which is a form of the quantum phenomenon light transfer resonance. Um, they were showing me all these holographic images of my other lifetimes and what I've done in other lifetimes. They were showing me where humanity is going on Earth. They were showing me what's been done behind the scenes on Earth with regard to humanity for generations, specifically for like the past 6 or so decades. And they were really just making me aware of all of these truths that I kind of went into this state of ontological shock because it was very existential and they were teaching me how to astral travel and I was having these experiences where I knew that I was being lifted out of my body and it was all new because this was happening while I was awake. And they were taking me into meetings with other people like me. I mean, there were other ethnicities present, there were other languages being spoken. Um, I mean,
When you're astral traveling, that's where you're going to these meetings?
yeah, so it was the way that they would do this is it was I mean, I don't need I'm just gonna say all of this. They would I would be on the couch and they would pull my legs down like gently. I mean, I knew what was going on here and they would get me into a laying down, a completely horizontal position. But it was wild to actually feel hands grabbing your legs and pulling you because I was like, okay, I know this is real, but it's just wild to actually have this experience and be aware of what's
Right.
happening. And then what would happen is my eyes would just completely shut. Like it was like I was overcome with this heaviness. It wasn't sleepiness, but it was like a heaviness. And then I felt my eyes like do the rapid eye movement. I knew things were happening. And I truly, I mean, and they would say like, okay, we're grabbing you. And it would feel like I could feel my chest start to lift. And I don't know how to describe this other than it felt like I had been wearing a blanket and the blanket was being like a weighted blanket and the weighted
Right.
blanket was being taken off, but there was no blanket. It was my consciousness, it was my soul, some type of body, but I was still connected to my physical body. So I still knew that my body was on the couch. I still knew I was tethered in some way, but I was having all these different experiences and I was being met by physical beings in these experiences in these rooms and I can describe what these rooms looked like and the conversations that were had. And what was interesting was when my main guide would kind of walk me around and have conversations with me, I knew his energy and what he looked like and what he was saying, and I remember all of that. But when I would come back down and be dropped back into my body, which would happen very suddenly, like it's all of a sudden I would just kind of snap awake and I felt
Mm-hmm.
super energized. I did not remember at all what the conversations I was having with the other beings were. It felt like
Huh.
we were having these meetings, like a conference room is really what the setup was. But not any conference room that I've ever seen here. I had no idea what we had talked about. I just knew the energy of it. Like I was there to learn different concepts and it felt
Mm-hmm.
like kind of a training. So it was a lot of experiences like that.
But they look like humans? Because
Yes.
like when you talk about earlier, like humanoids, there's more for other, galactic places that humans exist. You
Yeah.
know that just from the education of what they're teaching you. You're not reading this in a book.
No, I got that from what they were teaching me. And then because this was all coming in so fast, and I was like, oh my God, am I going crazy? Like, what's happening here? Because there was no one else in my life that I could talk to about this at the time. And so they started guiding me to books to read, written by other contactees and abductees and researchers and scientists and whistleblowers who have come out and tried to talk about this. And so I actually started being guided toward other contactees who actually their experiences were unique to them. But the information that they gleaned and were able to relay in their writing and some of them were speakers as well, um, matched perfectly with what I had been told by my guides and what I had seen too. And so it was really, and I think that was the most surprising thing for me was, which it really shouldn't be, but to think that there are other humans that exist in this galaxy and outside of this galaxy that aren't us. And I don't know why that was so difficult for me to wrap my mind around. I think it's because of how we're taught about
Hmm.
extraterrestrials, how they're portrayed in movies, Hollywood. But it makes so much sense. And they were telling me how, we all share DNA. Like we all have extraterrestrial DNA on this planet because we're all kind of part of the same, well, not kind of, like we all are part of the same broad
Right,
galactic family. So,
right.
and then there's other variations, of course, but yeah.
So when you are explaining the the what's been going when they tell you what's been going on for the last 6 decades and
Yeah.
what the future of the new earth and they show you what it looks like, will you explain those two
Yeah.
things?
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, there's so much to that I could talk about. Let me see what angle I want to take here. So they were showing me over the past 6 decades, there was essentially an agreement that had been reached between like a kind of a covert government organization, and isn't just in our country. This was a global organization, and it was an agreement with other species who had come here, um, really looking for domination over Earth's resources as well as humanity. Because, and the way that I learned this was, they were saying like there are other species out there that really just care about control dominion and greed. And so what they'll do is they'll go to a planet where there's a native species that hasn't quite reached a level of spiritual maturity or evolutionary growth where they can be intergalactic yet. And so they can go in and kind of stunt their growth and enslave them, more or less, or imprison them. And this was what was actually done to us about 60 years ago. This was done in 1954. And this was done behind the scenes. And basically, what they showed me was that, there were benevolent humans, beings that are part of the Galactic Federation of Worlds, which is a larger council that not even a council, actually, it's more of an organization that their goal and their intention is to maintain balance and justice and order in the galaxy. It's not like all love and light by any means. It's just to make sure that no one's breaking these rules. And basically, the species that had come here and made these agreements behind the scenes did break those rules. And they may, because they got other humans on Earth to sign a treaty and agree to basically allow these beings to create underground bases, again, just as around the world, but for the purposes of studying and harvesting our DNA and our specifically reproductive genetics. And so in exchange for that, they would be given Earth humans would be given advanced technology, which would keep them in power, profit, and control. And these beings knew what those intentions would be. And so what happened after that was it got so big and it turned into millions of people around the world experiencing abductions or experiencing like a lapse in time that they couldn't identify, or something like traumatic having happened to them, but they couldn't place their finger on it. And it was just it turned into this whole system, this whole control system to keep humanity locked below a certain consciousness level so that we didn't evolve and mature into our own sovereignty as a species and into reclaiming our rightful position in our intergalactic community. And so what they've showed me is where we're going. This is actually, we're the only ones at this point keeping ourselves plugged into this control matrix. The beings that had been enslaving us have been forced to leave. This is as of a few years ago.
Oh, wow.
There's still psychological operations going on. There's still Earth humans who are in agreement with them. I mean, there's so much going on behind the scenes and underground, like more than anyone could possibly know. And certainly more than I know the extent of. But where we're going is if we are able to remember the true power of who we really are and our sovereignty as beings of Earth and of this galaxy, we'll be able to reclaim our own power and control, over ourselves instead of continuing to give our power away to outside authority figures, to keep us working for this system that really only benefits the few. And so when they show me, what the quote unquote new Earth is, or this higher timeline, the higher timeline, as you and I have discussed, it already exists, right? It's already available to us. We just need to anchor it in by starting to cross that bridge and starting to really remember this truth about like the multidimensional nature of our reality and how there's really so much more going on in our world and in our reality than we've been taught to believe. And it was all done intentionally to kind of keep us locked in these lower levels of consciousness where we're not questioning things. So where we're going is really a world where, I mean, it's the same world, right? But it's not like we're people talk in the new age community about
Right.
like shifting, and um, it's creating new systems, new structures, new economies, new ways of being. I mean, this is everything from food to like Western medicine and integrating more holistic methods of healing and more advanced technology. And also they highlighted too, I mean, becoming an interstellar civilization where we are interacting more with these species from who are our soul family, but we're at a point still where there's so much fear surrounding that. And I mean, they've also brought up that we have this huge racism problem, which we very clearly do. And they said, if you can't respect someone from another culture, another country, another language, another skin color, another way of doing things, how are you going to accept and respect beings from another planet, even though they might look like you? But you have all this fear, and right, and so we can talk more about like, how everyone's a mirror for us, and where they're reflecting back to us our own fears, which activates us. But that's really the gist of all of this.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's
Holy
a lot,
moly.
I know.
Talk about head emoji blowing up.
I know, I know. That's why when you asked, I was like, okay, where,
Okay, here
how
we
do we do?
go.
Yeah.
But like, so when you look at what your life entails right now and how it's such a short distance from when you were 27 to now at 31, what, like, why now? Like, I've interviewed people where they're like, there's people, we've raised our hands, like everyone wants to be here right now. Like, this is such a big time
Right.
to be here to shift is there, is your soul's evolution has it experienced more of this? Like, why you? Like, why are you getting all these downloads? And why am I sitting here listening and with my head blowing off?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. And to all the people who have said, like, yes, our souls, decided to come here at this amazing time in history, it is because, I mean, this is truly, I don't want to say unprecedented, because the earth works in cycles, and civilizations work in cycles, but this is a crucial nexus point in our evolutionary journey, where we are unlocking higher states of consciousness, where we're expanding into, again, that, those rings on the tree, we're expanding out into higher densities of consciousness and interdimensionality, and we're starting to explore the true nature of who we really are. We're not these bodies. We get to experience life through these bodies and use them to amplify our experience, but we are so much more. And so, I mean, your question about, why me, it's not so much that it's a like a why me. It's I'm merely experiencing more of my potential and more of my full self, which every single person on this planet is capable of experiencing and tapping into. I happen to experience a lot at a young age, and I feel very grateful to myself, but also to my guides, and to my external circumstances that allowed me to have the courage to, and the faith to really move forward in this and transmute that energy. But um this is really just my soul's plan and my blueprint. My guides were kind of like, this is what you do. You come during, and a lot of people are here doing this. Like, I am so not unique in this, but and you're doing it too. Like, we're doing it face to face. It's We come here during these, I don't know what I want to call it, like phases, or turning points is really what it is. We come here during these turning points of consciousness expansion. And my guides were telling me, and I do this on other planets too. This is Earth happens to be going through this right now, and I care a lot about this shift in consciousness, about this ascension in consciousness. And so I came here to do this, and they made that very clear. So yeah, it's not really a why me per se. It's that I'm just choosing to lean into it, and really and follow what feels true for me, and that this is very true for me.
Because you've done it before and you're doing it right now in other
Yes,
places, and it's so
exactly.
familiar. It's a
It,
resonance.
it's a resonance. It's exactly it. It feels so familiar. I mean, even going through this contact experience with them, which I barely touched on, everything that happened, but um I trusted it. Like, I remembered this. It felt very resonant. And I just remember thinking, like, gosh, this is so confusing in my body right now, because I've never experienced anything like this in this life. And yet I'm having all of these weird memories start coming in on a soul level. And it really is just one of those, man, I've done this before. Like, this is not, I'm kind of, even in all of this uncertainty, and I have no idea, how my path is going to continue
Yeah, I love it.
unfolding. I really don't, but I'm not worried about it, because I just have this knowing. It's this inner knowing um, that I just need to keep allowing myself to be led by the future memories by the resonance that is created in my soul that I'm kind of allowing myself to just create externally as I go.
Right, I love that. When you had that experience, that contact on the couch, have you had more of that? Can you choose to go do
Yes.
that again? Like, if I said, "Okay, go do it now and come back and tell me what what happened."
Yes. So, I don't know if I can do it on command. I think I haven't tried that necessarily, but I definitely think it's like we're very much in partnership with this. And so I feel like if I have said like, okay, I'm ready for more or I want another experience, and they'll do it because they have my highest good in mind. They've been with me my whole life. So they know, I mean, I might think egoically, I'm ready for something else. I'm ready for more. And they might be like, you still have a
Right.
few things that you need to work through, and we'll give this to you when it's most relevant for you in your life. Um, but that being said, I have had a lot of experiences post initial contact. That really felt like an initiatory contact experience. And they were getting me acquainted with how these methods work and how my own consciousness works, how my astral body and my causal body work, and how to tell the differences between a felt sense in my body and my chakra system. So it was very much like a getting acquainted with their energy and with all of this. But I've had a few experiences since, like on the couch, and they always come in and they start like moving my head to the side like this, and that's kind of how I know they're coming in, and they'll kind of like move my body in different ways. I'll start like doing chanting, like ancient, I think it's like light language or shamanic language. I don't know. I've been channeling it now for over a year. And it doesn't really matter what we call it because it's
Right.
just a language of the soul. And I know they've taught me about, the resonance chamber of the body and the importance of the throat chakra emitting a frequency, a vibrational frequency through the words that we speak, and how important that is. And when you combine it with, they were teaching me like tapping, like EFT and different techniques. And so they'll kind of, I'll notice that my throat is like starting to open and that I want to start saying something. um, and then that will kind of help facilitate like the sound healing environment that sometimes is more conducive to having a natural experience like this. So yeah, there have been other times where they'll kind of like pull me down on the couch and I just get all excited because I'm like, let's go. What are we talking about today? And
Oh my
was
gosh.
just, it's an incredible experience. I mean, there's truly nothing to fear with this at all. The only thing I feared during this initial experience and just everything around it was what the people in my life would say or do or think. But the actual felt experience of this and connecting with these beings felt like something I had been waiting for my whole life.
Wow. Amazing. What is your mom and your parents? What do they
It's a
connect
good
with you?
question. So my mom has been so supportive. She's incredible, and just she wants and my ear just started ringing as I
Oh
said.
my gosh.
She has been such a light and just wants to know everything because she's also known, I mean, she's very intuitive. She's had these feelings her whole life too, where she's kind of felt like there has to be more, and she's been always been curious about extraterrestrials. And um,
Huh.
so she wasn't, it's interesting. She was surprised, obviously, just how things happened, but she really she was more interested and curious than anything else. And she's really excited and can't wait to see how this continues to go and unfold. um but yeah, I mean, my dad has been a little tougher. He's just very conventional. He's an attorney. He's in the black and white conventional world, and he's used to me having been in that too. And so I think there's, when we tend to view people in our lives in a certain role and in a certain way, and then when they kind of veer off that course or break out of that box that we've constructed for them, it can be jarring for us because we no longer know how to categorize them, right? And
Right.
so it kind of felt like me coming out of the closet, honestly, like just a very like the spiritual closet, but um all encompassing of just like, yeah, I'm expressing more. I haven't changed. I'm just expressing more of who I really am. And so I think he struggles to understand that and what this whole journey is, but that's okay. I mean, it's
Right.
not for everyone to understand.
No, and I love that. And that's how I live, with my husband or my girls. I live my life and I
Yeah.
don't, no one needs to get on my train,
Totally. Yes.
like, and I
Yeah.
love their train. Like,
Yes.
go do your train. It's amazing.
And we'll wave to each other from our
Right.
train
Yeah.
and
Right.
and we'll
Oh
end
my
up at the
gosh.
same station anyway. So
Exactly. Before we go, I want you to explain because I was getting so much into like I've been getting like these things in my like automatic writing or my meditations is the octaves, right? And you were talking
yes,
about the toyo toro whatever, the
toroidal
torus
field. Yeah.
toroidal field and
Yeah.
how you get to that octave and then you get and how you kept explaining how it kept moving up and up and
Uh-huh.
how we move into that and
Yes.
why we do like what our consciousness is doing to get to that top and then to move to the next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so one of the stronger downloads that I've gotten for the past, I mean, this has been coming to me for like over a year, is how music is the language of the universe, and how a lot of this was presented to me initially was, in talking about densities of consciousness and different dimensionalities of consciousness. Um, I was basically shown like a musical octave of do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, right? And do being the final note of, let's say, the first octave, but also the first note of the next octave. And so it's kind of like you finish this like as you're raising your frequency, which is really your frequency fluctuates at any given moment. It's moment to moment. Your vibration is more of the contained state of your constant frequency. It's more of like what you're actually embodying on a more consistent or constant basis. And your densities of consciousness, where your consciousness is um, existing, is always going up. It's like we're always or out, I should say. It's not hierarchical. It's just easier to describe that way with musical
Right.
notes. But your consciousness is expanding outward. It can never go, you can't like learn what you've learned, if that makes sense. So you're constantly going to the next note, and you can get stuck or stay on a specific note for a really long time, if you're not willing to see things for what they are and really allow your life experiences to teach you and wake and open your eyes more. But once you get to that final note of do, you realize that you're kind of on this new, I'll call it a playing field for lack of a better term.
Hmm.
Um, but it's really a new cycle. I mean, you're still learning lessons, you're still experiencing, life at the third dimension, you're experiencing all of it. It's just kind of on a new level now. And the way I view it is in that new octave, it's like, okay, people say like new level, new devils. Like
Right.
you're still in life, but it's on a different chord. It's different notes being played, or they just have a different sound. And so when I think about, the cycle, like you're constantly at this spiral, and I have the Fibonacci
Oh yeah.
on my wrist, and
I
I
love it.
love it because it is that upward, ever expanding cycle or spiral. But it's like that same point that you started on, you're always going around it. You'll just get to it at a higher vibrational state, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I watched you describe it like with the earth and that the middle, that dot in the middle is the void.
Yes, the point of singularity, the void.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so then you're moving like this. You're moving in the
So So yes. So if you think of Earth, the electromagnetic field of Earth as a torus or like a toroidal field, right? Which is our electromagnetic field too. If you think about where we're going, like we have an energy field going out like this, and then one going in like this, and it coils around our chakras, or what would be the Earth's electromagnetic poles.
right.
Um, and so if you think about, the point of singularity or the void being that point of where we come from, but also where we return to, all the field, the unified field, the quantum field of all possibilities or really probabilities that exist are all existing in this field, right? And it's in this contained electromagnetic field that belongs to the earth, right? So it's all these probabilities of past, present, future events, thoughts, feelings, patterns, you name it. And each time, so the way I view it, right, is, and this is what I was showing you, or showing in the video, was it's almost like lines of latitude and longitude. And
Right.
when they cross, these are all, I call them nexus points or nodes, that exist in any moment of any given day in our lives. But for the purposes of illustration, I was thinking more of like a major decision that you make or something that comes up where you're like, oh, even something as simple as what to have for dinner, but really like, should I take this job or should I move? And then what you decide dictates how you exit that node, how you exit that turning point in your life, and what timeline you're aligned to when you move forward. And so the thing that I was illustrating was, if we when we exist in our programming, we're so used to unconsciously just hitting subscribe, subscribe, subscribe.
Right.
And so we kind of go unconscious when we have these decisions to make, and we always default to our programming, to our subconscious beliefs. So if we haven't really done the work to rewire those or become consciously aware of what those are, we're going to keep making those same decisions and repeating those patterns. So then you'll stay on that same cycle, if this
Right.
makes sense. And then the more you start changing your frequency, changing your vibration, the more those probabilities of those other timelines begin to present themselves to you in a very real way. And you might say, huh, this opportunity exists here that I wasn't quite seeing before, but it's because I was really heavily in my programming
Yes.
before.
Yeah,
So, and
that's what you've opened me up to that more. You've made me realize, like I've said that a few times, but you live. It's so I love to have. I always tell the girls because I have two daughters, and we call them yes days. Like
oh, I
let's
love
just say yes to everything. Like when
that.
something comes up, let's just go. Like you never know. There's so much magic in yes, right?
There
But when
is.
you live like that and you don't live by those, the broken record or the hamster wheel or this thing that I can see it with people, right? Like I'm like, okay, well, that's what they've always done. They haven't taken that one little shift like to go,
Totally.
and I know they're on their train and they're perfect, it's like that's
Yeah,
like okay. But
exactly.
when you become aware of that and you become aware of like when you do that, like what you're doing now in your life, like I'm just gonna take that next, whatever
Yeah.
comes to me, and it feels right and it resonates, I'm gonna go because that's it's called.
Yes.
It's like a magnet.
It's exactly like a magnet. That's exactly it, because what you're doing is then you're emitting a signal out into the ether, into the unified field that says, this is what I'm operating on. This is my belief system about this. And the universe has no choice but to reconfigure itself in a way that will present to you something in your external reality. I don't know why my Zoom camera is doing
Yeah, isn't that funny? I was like,
but
whoa.
I know, but will present to you something in your external reality that will mirror that belief system back to you. And then it's up to you to decide whether or not you accept that and choose to move forward with that. So I love the way that you put that. And I love the yes days too, and it allows you, like what you're saying, it allows you to see things more clearly when other people are doing them, to say like,
Hmm.
oh, this is why you're operating this way, which allows us to have a lot more compassion and understanding and acceptance too for people wherever they are on their own journey.
Right. It's so funny. I sent Paige, so she's my 19-year-old. She
Hmm.
just started a job, and this boy that she's working with is like a hostess job, right?
Hmm.
And she's like, "Mom, he's triggering me." But I've taught her so much. Like if he's triggering
Ah,
you, it's in you, right?
yes.
Like I could be
Your
sitting
kids are
there and
so
he
lucky
wouldn't
to
bug
have
me. You
you.
what?
Your kids are so lucky to have you.
Oh, so she comes home yesterday and they did this training. And it's like, she's like, Mom, and she's going crazy and she's doing this blog for her friend about how he's doing this and he's trying to be like the perfect employee and he does over and above the call of duty and it's driving her crazy. And she's like, Mom, I think that's like me. That's usually what I do. And that's why it's bugging me. And I was like, oh my gosh, Paige, you're getting it. You're getting life. And it's
Yes.
so good to see you realize like he's triggering you, but it's in you.
Oh my God, that's it. I mean, that's exactly it. And I mean, I've had some conversation. I've had several college people in college reach out to me, in their late teens, early 20s after seeing my videos, just being like, no one my age, or very few people my age, are talking about this. And like, I want to know how I can, deepen
Oh,
into this. And I think that is the coolest thing to witness, like this, your daughter's 19, you said, who
yeah.
had
She
this
just turned
experience.
19. Yeah.
I mean, gosh, it gives me so much hope again when we talk about the like the higher timeline being anchored on and where we're going as a species, as a civilization. It's I have nothing but hope and faith in these future generations and
Yeah.
what we're able like we're gonna have to things are gonna have to crumble before we can, you know, rebuild them into what they could be, what the potential of them is. But when I see that there are people out there who are 19 and having these realizations and having this ability to really have that self-reflection, I think that is monumental.
Yeah, it was so cool. I'm like, oh, as a mom too. And one day, if you're a mom, you'll get
Yeah,
you start planting seeds and their whole life. And
yeah.
then all of a sudden they get to this age and you're like, oh, it worked. They were listening. Or it starts to bloom. And you're like, the
That's it.
seed is turning into a flower.
And that is truly incredible because you're the one planting the seeds, but they're the ones who are in charge of watering them.
Exactly.
So, and that's what I love. It's up to, I mean, and that's kind of how I view my sharing all of this is, you know, I'm not here to tell someone how to live their life. I'm here to show how I'm living mine and knowing that other people have helped me along the way. So here are just some seeds. You don't have to
Right.
water them,
Right. Right.
but they're here if you want to.
But the fact that, college age kids can relate to you and they're drawn to you, it's a resonance, and I feel like they're like, oh, they're already awake. They've been dumbed down, but maybe they see you and they're like, oh, that there's familiar. Like, oh,
Yes.
I want to do that.
Yes, yes, and seeing too the, you know, the conventional blueprint. And I don't say conventional in like a negative way. It's just it is what it is, but like that the blueprint that's been laid out for them, right? By their parents, by their universities, by
Mm.
society of like this is what you do. You go to college if you're lucky enough to go, right? And you get a job so that you can work in the system and you can continue to perpetuate this and blah blah blah. And I did it. Yeah, I did it. Like
Right.
I was the poster child for that. So
You
so I
did.
think it helps to kind of, you know, bridge that gap too.
But it's cool too. What came to me is like they relate to you too, like the generation that, thinks after high school they have to go to college for four, they do all these
Yes.
things.
Yeah.
And so you had to do that as
Hmm.
in a higher conscious, like looking at it from a higher perspective.
Did.
You
Yeah.
had to be that person. So they could relate to that to see you now like taking this why and being
Yes.
good with that and saying, I did that for those years and it was fine. But look at me, what I'm doing now. I'm listening and I'm moving forward.
Yes. Oh my gosh, you just tied together everything so beautifully because that's exactly like what we talked about earlier of like, okay, you were in the finance career and you had to do that. And so I think of it as I mean that's exactly it. Like I don't regret any I'm so grateful for all the experience I had. I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't change it because I might not be doing what I'm doing right now if things had been different.
Right.
So it had to happen, and I know that was a major part of my soul agreement. And I think back to how things, you know, how I met my partner James and um how I got promoted so quickly when it happened, and how just things just kind of when the universe is when you're in alignment and when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and at the time I was supposed to be doing that, things just really fall into place. And you know, you can call that coincidence, you can call that luck. I think it's a lot more magical if you call it synchronicity. And
Yeah, for
I believe
sure.
that that's just what it is.
Yeah, I believe. Oh, I just love that. Oh, Marston, so fun.
Oh my
You're
gosh.
my forever friend, my
I
soul
know.
sister.
I could not agree more. I'm so happy that we found each other this.
Oh,
I could talk
me
to you all
too.
day long.
Oh, I
Thank you
love it.
so
Tell
much.
me what's the next thing for you at 31? Where are you like what's the next breadcrumb you're picking up?
Ah, such a good question. And I love how you phrase that because that's really all I have right now is just
Right.
breadcrumbs. I'm leaving on Monday to spend pretty much the rest of the year in Europe. And again, following the nudges, I'm just kind of going where I feel guided to go. I am definitely, I'm starting to write a book. So I'm
Oh,
planning to do
good.
that when I'm going to Italy first, and I'm planning to do that there, like a memoir and memoir. I said that weird, but and I'm starting a podcast too. So
Oh, good.
it's something that has been coming to me. I've had a few people ask if it's something that I would do, and I'm such a newbie. I would love any of your help and guidance, but yeah. So those are the things that I'll be working on, and I'm doing individual sessions with people, um, who resonate with me and who want either like a mediumship session or an intuitive consulting guidance session. And I'm not gonna make any rigid plans, and I'm just gonna
Yeah, I love that.
continue to see how it unfolds.
And how do they find you?
TikTok is really the only way right now because I'm not on any other, I mean, I have an Instagram, but I haven't really posted on it. I'm not following people really. And I mean, I've built out my website over the past few weeks. So on my TikTok, I have a link to my website. So
What
that's
is your website?
thebridgingcatalyst.com.
Oh, I love it.
Thank you. And that's
Where,
the name that came to me in a breathwork session like
okay.
4 years ago. So, and that'll be the name, I think, of my book and the podcast too.
Oh,
Uh,
I love it.
so
And
yeah.
this is your first podcast, and it's so cool that I get to be the one.
Oh my God, I am so thankful. Like this could not have worked out more beautifully. And you have made my first podcast experience so magical and so fulfilling and rewarding. And I mean, if I get to have conversations like the one that you and I have been having for the rest of my life, like all day,
Oh, believe me.
that's what I want to
You
do.
know, like today when I was thinking about my day, right? I get up and I do my thing and and I'm thinking of you. And I
Yeah.
think if I didn't have this podcast, I didn't get to look forward to meeting Marston and going
Yeah.
down a rabbit hole and learning. And I would learn still from you because you would have resonated with me, but I wouldn't have gotten this in-depth 1 hour, conversation
Totally.
or get, connection.
Mhm.
It would not, my life wouldn't be fulfilling. I know I would find something else to fulfill it, but this fulfills me so much that people
Yes.
are like, how do you go from one interview to the next one and get so, I go, because if it doesn't fulfill me and I'm not screaming Marston to the universe, then
Yes.
I'm not going to do it.
Oh my God. That is the perfect way to say it. I think if it's not a full body yes, if
Yes.
it doesn't excite you,
No,
no. And
no.
we, especially as women, we've been groomed our whole lives, to be polite and to say yes and to maybe to say yes to things that aren't full body yeses, right? And
Right.
and so there's something really powerful and empowering about um living life according to what fully resonates and saying no to the rest. So I love that you are such an inspiration in this. And I mean, just I've learned so much just from our conversation today. And I'm like,
Oh,
okay, no, I do.
you? I'm
Yes,
talking.
me.
I've learned so much.
I'm so glad. I mean, this is, yeah, and this can be overwhelming. Like there's a lot of information in this. So, my goal is to break it down as best I can, in language that resonates for people where they are. Because this is, I mean, I can see how people would be quick to dismiss this or to not really feel curious about it or
Uh-huh.
to resonate with it if it's language that doesn't resonate with them and they're like, no, this is new age, this is religion, this is, what, I slap a label on it, whatever it is. But I think when we can talk about it more openly like this, where we can really demonstrate that this doesn't fit in a box, this is not just extraterrestrials, this is not just
Right.
religion or spirituality or energy, this is all the same conversation.
Right. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I can't wait to watch your journey. Like I could be your mom.
Oh my
Like
God, my
watch
sister, my
I
beautiful
just
sister.
to watch you see where each
Yeah.
breadcrumb you pick up and, what the journey, how you, what you choose, what your choices and the timelines that you move on and, watching those light up. And it's going to be
Thank
so fun to
you.
watch. I'm so excited to have you part of my soul group and my
Oh,
family.
I am so honored to be a part of it and just could not be more excited and truly just I feel so grateful that I met you, Ashley, and you'll be with me for the whole journey. So you're locked in. You're
I
stuck
am
with me
locked
now.
in. My girls always say, you got to lock in, mom. I'm like, okay, I'm locked in.
You're locked in, girl. We're doing it together. We are in this together.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.